Good morning. Shawn here with Accelerators Organization, ready for another mentor session. Sorry for my red skin here today. We got a little bit of sunshine yesterday for 4th of July. Let's get this thing going. All right, let's pull up the right screen here. I hope you guys can hear me okay. The first question comes from Sarah. And Sarah says, can you recommend any apps or programs to use for organizing your to-do lists, prioritizing tasks, and time blocking? The background is I am a growing and expanding a barbershop and need help with organizing. Okay, I use a couple things. I like to use just a pad of paper and a pencil as it relates to just my daily activities that need to get done. Sometimes I also use just my Outlook calendar on my computer. I do use Outlook. I don't use Google Suite. I use Microsoft and I use Outlook. So I use my calendar. But I tell you this, I'm looking for the right things to say here, Sarah, because there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different things that people use, and I have asked the same question many times over the years. At the end of the day, try something. Just try something. And here's the thing. The best system that you can use is one that you will use. It doesn't matter if I recommend a software for you or you tell you to use a pad of paper and a pencil. If you don't use it, it doesn't matter. So one of the things that we can do as people to stay organized and to get stuff done is to get an assistant and tell them to remind us. Whenever there are things that we know that need to get done, we just send them a quick message on Slack, which is what I use. Slack as a software platform. I send her a quick message on Slack and she can remind me. I send my other team members things to do that need to get done and they remind me. This is like the end-all, be-all thing of anything. Learning how to manage our time is a skill that has to be developed, just like you performing a fade on one of your clients. You have to just develop a system and get used to using it every single day. And then it just becomes a routine and it becomes a habit. Until you make something a routine or a habit, you're going to continue to be unorganized, feel like you're not getting stuff done. Right now, if it were me and I was giving you advice to somebody new who's never done anything or who isn't following a system, I would literally tell you to get a pad of paper and a pen and start writing down everything that you need to get done. It's that simple. I wouldn't complicate it with all of the quadrants that people do for emergency and priority 1, priority 2. I wouldn't get into an extremely complex system like that yet. I would start my day with a pad of paper and a pencil and write down everything that needs to get done. I would take a look at my calendar and I would just mark off this hour I'm going to work on my list. This hour I'm going to work on my list. And we have to be focused and not let all of the emergencies and everything that come up get in the way. You and I, we are the problem when it comes to time management, time blocking, organization, unorganization. We are the problem and we are the solution. For the short term, my advice is to use a piece of paper and a pencil and just get things done. And I know that you can be a great delegator. Start looking at your list and saying, what are the things that I can do and what are the things I can get somebody else to do? And then if you build out a process, when you delegate, that in the beginning you tell people, I'm giving you this to do. Would you please let me know when it's done? Shoot me a text message, send me an email, drop by my office, but tell me when it's done so I can mark it off my list. Start with that first. If you try to complicate it with your busy life and start using all these different types of software and project management tools and all those things, it's going to overwhelm you. Make it simple. Keep it simple, stupid. Some of the most highly seasoned executives running billion-dollar companies use a piece of paper and a pencil. Okay? Hope that helps. Okay, next question comes from Heather, and Heather says, I'm looking for the best way to get around employees having clients' personal information like company phone, Google Voice, etc. The background is I'm having an issue with former employees breaking a legally binding contract and reaching out to clients, and would like a workaround so they are not able to access this information, if that's even possible. It's not. It's not. That's coming from a really negative place there too, Heather. Listen, it's very, very common, especially in certain industries, that when people provide services for the clients and then they decide, you know what, I'm no longer going to work with this company and I'm going to go out on my own, they're going to contact their current clients and say, do you want to come with me? I would do it. I know that in certain states enforcing a non-compete isn't going to work. And of course, I want to start my own business, so I'm going to call the clients that I've been working on. There's no way to stop that. Zero chance. A better approach to solving that problem, which the problem will never go away, it will always happen. You will lose some clients because they will get some loyalty with their groomer or the service provider. This is why it's really important for Heather's Mobile Pet Grooming to build a relationship with its customers, not the groomer and the bather themselves. One of the things you could do is mix it up. Have groomers go to different places and not build those strong relationships with individual clients. I don't know if that's possible, but it's an idea. It could be you hiring a customer service agent, a relationship manager, an account executive, whatever title you want to give it, and that person is constantly reaching out to your customers, letting them know how much you appreciate their business. And Heather's Mobile Pet Grooming, Heather's Mobile Pet Grooming, Heather's Mobile Pet Grooming, and it's all about Heather's Mobile Pet Grooming, not your individual groomer, okay? It's that simple. This is, like I said, it's just a very common thing. I think if you start trying to prevent your employees from seeing customer information and all that type of stuff, they're going to see what you're trying to do, and you're not going to bridge a great relationship with your team members. As you've learned about in the leadership conference that you came to, it's really important about building relationships with your team members. What motivates them? Why is somebody going to quit? Most people don't quit, companies. They quit bad managers. They quit bad processes. They quit bad systems. That's the majority. But at the end of the day, there is also going to be somebody like you that says, well, I want to go on my own. Great. Why don't you start up a new location in another city using my brand, and I'll partner with you and I'll help you. If you start getting into the mindset of, I don't want anybody to ever leave me, I'm going to treat them great. The bad ones are going to try to steal your clients, and you already know they're not going to do a good job, and the client's going to come back to you. It could be that when a groomer leaves, maybe you send out a message and saying, hey, we wanted to let you know, Joe client, that this particular groomer has left under not so good terms. We value your business and we have assigned another great groomer and she's going to be out. And you just continue to build those processes and those relationships. But there is absolutely zero reason and zero ability to stop people from trying to steal your clients. Man, it just is so common in certain industries. But from a software perspective, from a team building perspective, it would be detrimental to the success of your business if you tried to make it to where your team members could not have a relationship or see customer information. I'm anxious to see what some other mentors say about this, but that's just my opinion. But I'm going to get some other mentors to answer this for you as well. Next question comes from Derek, and Derek says, let me make sure that that you guys can see me too. Can you guys leave a comment and just make sure that you guys can hear me okay? Those of you that are watching, thank you. Okay, the next question comes from Derek, and Derek says, what sales management tools do you use or recommend? Example, CRM, for coaching a growing 65-person business-to-business team. Thank you. The background is the sales team are all independent contractors and have their own system. So I'm looking for my own system to track my coaching calls with them. Okay, so I use Entreport. You can use Salesforce.com. Salesforce.com is amazing. I use Entreport. You could even use Microsoft Excel if you didn't want to get a piece of software. But I use Entreport, which is fantastic. I've used Salesforce.com in the past. All you're looking for is any type of CRM software. There's HubSpot is one. You're just looking for a type of software that you can have all of your client information in it, and you can perform what's called log a call task. And that way, every time you make a phone call, you click a button, you say, I'm logging a call, it timestamps it for you. You take notes. When you finish the call, it adds it to that client record, and you're good to go, and it's always there. The most professional salespeople that I've ever met that make at least $250,000 a year or more all use a CRM. They task and log every single phone call with a client, and before they reach out to a client again, they go over the notes from the past couple calls to make sure they're prepared for the new phone call. It's a lot of information, but when you get into the habit of doing it, it can increase your sales and your relationship. Mostly because it's very difficult, especially if you're working with 65 different people, to remember every single conversation. And I'm talking about conversations like, do you have kids? What are your kids' names? You know, what grade are they in? What sports do they play? When's your anniversary? Where's the best place you like to vacation? To remember all of that information about every single one of your clients and remember their birthdays, to send them out a birthday card or a birthday text, not many people would be able to do that. I know I can't. So CRM, pick one. HubSpot, Salesforce.com, Entreport. I'm sure there's others out there in the marketplace, but the best CRM that you can find, Derek, is the one that you're going to use. Don't complicate it. Don't worry so much about the monthly fee. It's going to range anywhere from $100 to $200 a month, somewhere around there. Maybe you can find a cheaper one as well, but that's what I would recommend. There's also a guy in the group that if you want to send me an email, I think that Jordan Shaw has a CRM software. I don't know if it's full CRM for what you're looking for, but I'd be more than happy to put you in touch with them. It's something that he developed himself, and I know that he is just launching it. I'd be more than happy to put you in touch with him. Okay, the next question comes from Derek, and Derek says, how do I cash out or sell an earned financial membership equity in a startup company I started with in 2018-19? Thank you. Background is I'm uncertain of how exactly to discover the value of the financial membership and then how I would seek out a buyer for it. I can imagine selling it back to the company is one option as they are fundraising, and maybe another option is to seek outside investors. Is it even still worth something because they have changed their business structure since then? Okay, so when you say membership, I'm assuming it's an LLC. Okay, well, the governing provision of how you can sell your membership interest in that company is going to be dictated by the partnership operating agreement. The first thing you would have to do is go to your current partners in that business and ask what the buy-sell provisions are in the governing partnership agreement. Most partnership membership agreements, operating agreements, do not let somebody sell their interest in the company to an outside person. It's usually prohibited. So that's where I would go first. If there's no operating agreement, then your interest in that company is probably worthless. Like, that would be my guess, is it would be completely worthless. It would mean that the company probably isn't operating legally, possibly. It's not issuing tax returns and partnership information to the partners on an ongoing basis, especially yearly. But if there's an operating agreement, the operating agreement is going to dictate that. Then, depending on your operating agreement, the best thing to do is to, especially in a small business, it's even harder to come up with a valuation because mostly the valuation is going to be based upon just emotion instead of legitimate numbers. You're going to think it's going to be worth something else. The partners are going to say, well, we think it's worth this. And then negotiation happens, and it can get really emotional. It can cause a lot of conflict as well, a lot of confrontation. But in any situation that I've ever been in with that, one of the things you can do is hire a small business valuation expert or maybe a business broker. But in order for anybody, a business broker or business evaluation person, to come in and truly give you what they feel is an accurate valuation of the company, they're going to need multi-year tax returns, financial statements, balance sheets. They're going to need to understand projections. There's a lot of different information that goes into valuing a company. And so those are the ways to get a real valuation. Get a business valuation expert, which if you just search for one on Google, you can find different firms that are business valuation experts. You might even be able to find somebody on Upwork, UPWORK. There might be some business valuation expert freelancers on there. Or talk with a business broker and see if that's a part of the service they provide. But generally speaking, they're going to need to see financial statements, profit and loss statements, cash balance sheets. They're going to need to understand what kind of all the debt that's on the books, what kind of debt it is. It's very complex to value a business, but those are the things that go into it. Okay, I hope that helps. But also, to answer your question, usually the best option is always going to be selling it to the people that are going to stay with the business, not an outside person. Usually an outside person would stay away from a situation like that, because that would throw smoke signals, fire signals, that there's something wrong with the internal operations of the company, and they probably would not get involved with something like that. As an angel investor myself, I would never buy somebody's interest unless I already knew the business and understood it, and it was all agreed upon, all the partners, of why I was doing that. Because generally speaking, that money is going to go in your pocket, and when I make an investment, I want it to go into the company in order for the company to grow. To do an equal exchange of membership interest for cash, so all I'm doing is getting your interest, usually isn't something that most investors are going to do. Okay, the next question comes from Nicole. Nicole says, in this day and age, how important is it to have a toll-free number for your business? The background is I liken this to the concept of having an @Gmail or @domain name email account, since long distance isn't that big of a thing anymore. I was wondering if having a toll-free number gives an impression of professionalism. I know customers care what we do for them, but I also know professionalism is important. Toll-free number is absolutely not needed in any way, shape, or form anymore. Nobody pays long distance. Nobody really looks into that stuff anymore. Next question comes from Zach. And Zach says, what are some creative ways to get financing if you can't get traditional bank financing? The background is my company, Diamond State Technology, specializes in working with access control, automation, cameras, and security systems for both residential and commercial applications. The reason for my question is my company is going to hit a stopgap the first week of July. We did sell a large project, and I'm in the process of hiring 4 employees for the project. I'm going to need financing of $50,000 to $75,000 to cover existing overhead and to mobilize my crew to the site. This will only be temporary until the invoice for the project hits my account 30-ish days later. Thank you, mentors, for your irreplaceable knowledge and insight on how to navigate this. Okay, so Zach, one of the things you could do, and you may have heard me talk about this at different leadership events, AO Live and things like that. This is where it's really important to build a relationship with your bank. And it's good to bank with a regional or local bank, not a big bank like Bank of America or Chase or Wells Fargo, a local regional bank. Every month, I want to share my financial statements, my profit and loss, and my balance sheet with my bank, and let them know how the health of my business is doing, so that when I do have times like this come up, I can show them the invoice and the contract, and many times they will give me a line of credit to be able to establish for my business. So that's the first route that I would take, to see if you can get bank financing, and that's going to help by building the relationship with your bank. Also, take a look at any other assets that you have, your vans, your units, your house, anything that you can take, that you can pledge as assets against any lines of credit. I like to exhaust those options first before I go out to outside investors, because I'm always going to pay more to an outside investor than I would if I financed the deal myself. If at the end of the day you don't have access to anything else yourself, the first place to go would be friends and family. Do you have friends and family that trust you, that would be willing to loan you with an official promissory note document, the terms of that document of they're loaning you this much money in exchange for this much interest in this time period? Do you have friends and family that would be willing to do that for you? The next thing you would do is, if you don't, is by developing relationships with different people that you know that just have money. This would be whether they are investors or just people that are wealthy and have money. By developing relationships with people that have money and building up a trust factor like you have, like with myself and Tom and others, when you do go to do some things like this, you could reach out and say, hey, listen, is this something you would be interested, or what would I be looking for? And they might offer. I will tell you that type of investment, even though in your mind, and even though the reality might be that it is super duper secure and guaranteed that you're going to get paid, I can't tell you how many times in life that investors have said, sure, I'll give you $50,000 for 90 days in exchange for 10%, so $5,000 of interest. And you're going, I know I'm going to make way more than that. I need the money. It's worth it. And then you go do the work and the client cancels the contract and doesn't pay you. And then the investor doesn't get their money back, and then your business suffers, and then you go out of business. I can't tell you how many times investors get screwed over when things just are so great and they're secure and they're guaranteed and blah, 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 blah. This is so common. So you've got to understand that is the psyche of an investor, that you might say, I need $50,000 for 30 days. It rarely, and I mean rarely, ever is an actual 30 days or even a 60 days or 90 days. Most times the investor ends up getting screwed. So here's some of the things that you can provide to the investor so that you can give them maybe some more warm and fuzzies. Put together projections. Get anything in your contract that shows that the client is going to pay based on these terms and what the projections are. You can provide weekly reports to the investor to let them know that everything is on track and there's no problems. You cannot over communicate how much this is going to happen and the investor is going to get paid. Now, and that would be kind of considered what we would call a short-term bridge loan. So that would come from just relationships. There's no like outside investor that you don't have a relationship with that probably would not invest in you. The next thing you could take a look at is you can look at what's called accounts receivable loans. So basically, these companies will underwrite you as a company, and then they will also underwrite your clients. And they'll say, well, based on the contract, based on your company and us doing our underwriting, if you submit this accounts receivable, this invoice that you're going to invoice your client, and your client might take 30 or 45 days to pay, we will give you 80% of that invoice today. But when your client pays the bill, they're going to actually pay it, made payable to you, but that's coming to us, and it's going to get signed over to us. We're going to cash the check. We're going to take our 2% or whatever it might be, and then we're going to give you the rest once it gets paid. And so there's an underwriting process that goes with that. I'll reach out to my network and find out if we have any relationships with any really good established accounts receivable loan companies, and I'll see if I can find somebody for you. But that's called an accounts receivable loan, and that's very common. I actually used it in my business. It's called factoring, and I used that in my business for a long time when I was first starting out and had cash flow issues. So in that situation, you'd need to talk to your client and find out if they would be willing to let you send an invoice, even if it's going to be net 30, net 45, net 60 or whatever, so that you can get that financing because you're having to front so much cost. The risk that you take with that is that you're letting your client potentially know that you're a small business, and that's a big fear factor to your client, that you're even going to be able to do the job. I prefer to not have that happen. In this situation with you, knowing you, I would look to put together some sort of promissory note. How can you guarantee that note in any way? Get creative with whatever you can to guarantee and put together a $75,000 promissory note. I would guess that you're going to pay at least 10% in an interest amount, even if it's 60 days, 90 days, so that you can get that money because you know you're going to profit a lot on that deal. That's probably the route that you're going to want to go. But longer term, I really want you taking your financial statements on a monthly basis, your reconciled profit and loss statement, and your balance sheet, and developing a relationship with a local or regional bank in your area. Don't bank with the big banks. They won't build a relationship with you like the smaller banks will. Okay? Keep this question coming. I want to know what goes on with this, okay? Okay, the next question comes from Zach, and Zach says, how do you hold employees accountable when they lose or misplace equipment for a project? My company, Diamond State Technologies, specializes in working with access control, automation, cameras, and security systems. The reason for my question is an employee of mine misplaced $700 in hardware, causing me to reorder the equipment for a loss of $700. When I worked for other alarm companies, they docked my pay until the equipment that was lost was repaid. This just seems unfair. Our equipment is pretty expensive, and docking pay just doesn't sit right with me. Thank you, mentors, for your irreplaceable knowledge. Okay, well, this is certainly just a policy that's going to be important for you to put in place. As the business owner, you can put together any policy that you would like. If it were me, I would probably write the person up for the first offense. I would then do due diligence to check my processes. How could hardware get lost? Like, where is the process wrong in that hardware even has the opportunity to be lost? And I do feel like there is a sense of responsibility from an employee that they need to have some skin in the game. I would probably listen to what happened, write them up, and let them know that this is, something that they have to really be careful about, and I would write them up. If it happened again, I'd write them up a second time, and I'd repeat the process, and I would find out what happened. If it happened a third time, I'd probably let the person go. If a pattern starts getting created to where they just, unfortunately, just keep losing or misplacing stuff, that's probably a sign of theft, or a sign that they're stealing it and selling it and making money on the side. So first time, new employee, okay, we'll work with you. Things happen. You could say that you're going to eat 30%, 40%, 50%, 100%, whatever. That's a policy you would create. If it were me, I would probably eat it the first time. If it happens a second time, I might say, hey, listen, if it happens a second time, we're going to split the difference 50-50. If it happens a third time, either I'm going to let you go or it's coming out of your paycheck. And there are laws around this that you're going to have to talk with an HR person and find out what the legalities are around docking somebody's pay and making them pay for it. You really want to make sure you do that legally. So you might want to talk to Marcia or Connor, one of our mentors here, to find out how that has to be established. But that's probably what I would do. First time, no big deal. Second time, okay, there's an issue here. Third time, there's a real issue. Okay, hope that helps. Okay, the next question comes from Kristen. And Kristen says, advice or tips on how to manage or how to handle running a business with a family member who is micromanaging and afraid of change. The background is I'm starting the first phase of taking over my father's business of 30 years to eventually running it while he is still a majority shareholder. I'm going to be in training, learning how everything works. I've worked there before and is still running as it did in the 70s. There are a few updates that need to be made, especially for growth. He is kind of open but afraid. It is hard to get him to see me as an adult because I'm ultimately still his daughter. Looking for strategies to build trust, become a valued asset, and trusted teammate. Okay, very common, and I know that you and I and a couple other members talked about this on a Zoom, but for the sake of this mentor session, I want to go into some detail here. First thing to know is it's going to take time. You coming in as a daughter into a parent's business that's been running for a long time, it's going to be very challenging for them to trust you and to make change after they've been doing something for a long time. One of the ways to frame the conversation would be, hey, Dad, what I would love to do is I'd like to start learning this business the way that you do things and why you do them. How did it come to the point today that you're running the business the way that you are, and why? Because I'd really love to understand that, because you've done such a great job. You've stayed in business for decades, which is amazing. I'd love to really understand why we do the things that we do the way we do them. This is going to show them that you're open to understanding and you're not attacking them and telling them that they're doing something wrong when you've never been when you haven't been doing this for 30 or 40 years, right? The more you can get involved in the thinking and showing empathy for what they do and what they've done, the more you're going to be able to establish trust with him. And as you start to look at things, you can then ask probing questions, which is less confrontational, and saying, hey, Dad, I notice that we're doing this, and I came across a process or a technology or a better product or something that might work better, and we could even make more money and our clients would be happier. Would you mind if I looked into this more and then came back with a report to you to take a look at and see what you think? Do you see the difference of that and saying, hey, Dad, we should do it this way because this? Do you see the difference from a confrontational perspective if you come at it with a probing question? Those are some ways to handle the nuances of working in a family business, all right? Keep us posted on this. I love that. Okay, the next question comes from Lindsay, and Lindsay says, how do I get my product in front of a corporate client? The background is I own a truffles company and want to get involved in corporate gifting. I'm looking to get my product in front of small business owners and corporations to get bulk orders and subscription orders. Awesome. Well, I would literally either, if you're going to do it locally, I'd get in my car with some samples and I'd go visit businesses, and I would have a clearly laid out system and process and an order form, what the subscription would look like, what they would get, what the options are, and I would have some processes, probably a website established that would be easy for them to come to my website when they do want to gift it. Make it easy, just like gifting something on Amazon or gifting on one of those other types of websites. Make it easy for them to go, enter their information, enter the recipient's information, pay for it, all the tracking, a card that they want in the box, all that type of stuff. I would think about every process and have that all established before I go out there and start talking to customers. And then I would literally get in my car. This is what I would do. I would literally get in my car and I would go visit all the potential type of businesses that I would want to do business with. If it was outside my local geographic area, I would pick up the phone and I would create a phone script of how to do an online demonstration with them of how my gifting program works and see how to get them onboarded. So I'd make a phone call and say, hi, my name is Shawn Thomas. I'm with Truffle Company, and we wanted to find out, do you ever buy gifts for customers or your team members? And if so, we would like to be considered an option, and we'd love to show you what we do. Who would be the best person at your company to talk to? And I'd like to give you an online demonstration, and I would set up a process, and I would go down that way. So that's good old-fashioned B2B sales. At this juncture, I wouldn't rely on marketing of just running advertisements and all those type of stuff. I would want to build relationships with key accounts, because if I can establish that I could create a certain number of key accounts in a geographic area, I might end up being able to determine if I could hire a salesperson and then start hiring salespeople all over the country to go out there and sell for me and grow the company. That's what I would do. All right, next question comes from Rohit. And Rohit says, what's the best way to price products? What margins do we set prices at? The background is need help with pricing products, first-time business owner. Okay, well, it really depends. This is a very complex thing as far as pricing products. It really depends on, is it a product that has what's called a cost of goods sold to it, or is it a service in which the only cost is really time? In the AO Resource Center, in the portal, if you go to probably accounting. In accounting, I believe it would be, or you know what? Let me get in there right now because I really want to give you the right information. Give me 1 second, Rohit. I'm going to log into the portal real quick and get you the right information. But I believe it's in accounting, maybe even in starting a business or business planning. Those are different areas of the resource center. In those areas, I know that there is some information of pricing products. I'm going to go and look in accounting real quick. Let's see. Yes, in the accounting section of the AO Resource Center, there is an entire article to get started with on how to price a product. There's also an article on what is the break-even point. Okay, and then there's another article on strategies and formulas for pricing services at small businesses. Okay, so go check out those articles and then see if those answer your question. And if they don't, come back and ask another question, please. But those are going to be the right articles. I am not well versed enough to really give you the calculated technical information of how to price a product, but I'm also going to get Jeff Bruno, Tyler McBroom, and a couple other people to chime in and answer this question for you as well. All right? Thanks, Rohit. Okay, the next question comes from AJ, and AJ says, how do you know when it's time to fire a client? The background is, in my online marketing agency, there are 2 specific clients who consistently are frustrating to deal with. Their communication standards do not exist. When they need something, they expect our undivided attention at the expense of anything else, and they consistently struggle to pay us on time. Both can afford us. It's not a cash flow issue. I'm at a point where I'm ready to be done with them mentally, but firing them would reduce our monthly revenue by 30%. I'm struggling with the idea of losing that much revenue but gaining so much time back. Okay, well, it sounds like obviously there's a breakdown in communication. It doesn't sound like it doesn't exist. It sounds like there's poor communication coming from both sides. I would really look to find out what I am doing wrong that's allowing this type of communication to happen between your 2 companies. Because absolutely, I am doing something wrong if my customer thinks it's okay to talk to me disrespectfully, if my customer thinks it's okay to not pay me on time, if my customer thinks that I can just drop everything in the world to take care of them when they want help, even though it's outside the parameters of their service level agreement, I'm doing something wrong, not them. If I allow it, then they just think it's okay. And if it's not okay, then it's important for me to say something. I don't necessarily have to fire a client in order to get them to abide by the terms of the agreement and the communications that we want between each other. It sounds like if it were me and I'm a small business owner as the CEO, I would have a sit down face-to-face if possible, but online on a Zoom would be second best, on a phone would be third best, email definitely not, text message definitely not. And I would have a conversation with the client, and I would open up the conversation by with an email and saying, hey John, hope you're having a great day. There's a couple things that I would like to discuss with you about the services that we're providing. Would you please click this link and get on my calendar? Or if you have a calendar link for me to get on your calendar, would you let me know the best way to schedule something with you? I'd like to come by and meet with you. Let me know what would be good, or if we can do a Zoom. And then when we get on the phone or when we get on the Zoom or it's face-to-face, I'd say, you know, John, first off, thanks for meeting me. I'd like to brainstorm some things with you that have been going on with our companies and just kind of let you know my feelings and get your response to this so that we can have an open line of communication. What that does in prepping up the conversation like that is it opens up that you have something that you want to talk to them about. You're not attacking them, and you want them to share what they're thinking, which is what you want. We really want someone to feel open and trusting enough to share what's going on. And then I would bring up, well, there's three things I would like to discuss. One is it seems that our invoices are not getting paid on time consistently. And I would like to find out if there's a better process that we could establish to make it easier for you, so the invoices can be paid on time. I can set up an auto draft. If you give me your company checking information, I can just auto draft. If I want to have a credit card on file and you can get points, I could put a credit card on file. I could send you a PayPal invoice. What would be the best way for me to set up a process in order to get you the invoice so that we could pay it on time? That would be the first thing. The second thing is I was looking over our service level agreement for the job that we're doing for you, and I noticed there are times that you want to get urgent and emergency type projects that would require us to drop other projects that we're working on to focus on yours because you have a shorter time frame than maybe normal. And for that, I would need to pay my team members some additional compensation to get them to work overtime in order to facilitate handling the projects for the current work they're doing, and be able to get you the work you want done faster. So it looks like we're billing you at $50 an hour for the normal work that we do for you. If you have an emergency, we want to take care of that. We would need to charge you $75 an hour so that I can pay my team members for the overtime they're going to need to work to get those projects done for you. Would you be okay with that? Or if there's a time that you are asking for urgent and emergency work, I can ask you for approval, or just tell you that we can put it in to your normal work order and give you timelines on when those can be done. So you see what I'm saying, AJ? It's kind of trying to open up the dialogue and work with the client and give them options so that they can make a decision and feel like they're in charge. There's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't hurt my ego or my pride. It could end up making me more money, and it could strengthen the relationship. So when I approach my client with all of these things, I want to come at them initially with ideas. Now listen, at the end of the day, no matter how nice we can be and how great we are at communicating, sometimes there are just bad clients, okay? Now, one of the things that I did when I was building my company is I let my team members deal with those bad clients sometimes, because I would let my ego and my fight or flight emotion get into play, and that would hurt the company's financials. I found that there were some times that I had team members that were more patient, that would not get triggered and emotional, and they could handle the clients better than I could. And we kept the business. They didn't get pissed off. The client didn't get pissed off. The team member was okay, and it worked out. So sometimes delegating out that relationship to somebody more patient and better suited to that has worked wonders for me in the past. If those two things don't work, then yes, then we have to make a decision of whether or not we want to keep that client and free up their future and let them go. So that's kind of the process that I always take when I look at whether or not I want to keep a client on. Hope that helps. Okay, we go 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm going to wrap up this mentor session right now with those, and then I'm going to come back later on and we have some more questions, and I want to keep this one limited to the time frame that we have now, and I'm going to come back on later today and finish up a mentor session for the rest of the questions that we have in queue. All right, I hope that you got some great information out of these. Awesome. Thanks, Taylor. Appreciate you, man. Kimberly, Corey, good to see you. Quade, good to see you. Quade, I know that your question's on the next one. Corey, yours is coming up. So I'll be back on this afternoon to answer some more questions. I just like to keep these somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes for the YouTube channel and so forth. So I'll be back on later this afternoon to answer the rest of the questions, okay? Hope you guys have a great day, morning or night, and I will see you soon. Remember that when I answer your questions, we're going to download the video, and then my assistant is going to email you a link directly to the YouTube video where your question is being asked and answered to make it nice and easy for you, okay? Have a great day. Peace out, everybody. Happy Monday.